Hi, I'm Panda Hershey with Your Full Expression. Welcome to the June 15th Coffee and Charts call, where we discuss how the next 3 weeks help you lay the foundation for the fall. The Mercury portal through Taurus and Gemini that started at the end of April will complete in just a few days. And from these 7 weeks, you've got the kernel of an idea that is going to blossom later. If you use the first 2 weeks of June to somehow use your mind in an intentional way, you'll use the next 3 weeks to think about how to reassemble those ideas and maybe add a few new ones and create something to pour your heart into later. These next 2 weeks are also a time to invite in the crowd that needs to hear your message, so I encourage you to go for it. As always, we'll watch the daily movement of the planets, and I'll point out a few key days to pay attention to. And at the end of the discussion, I talk about my new offering that will start this summer, and I hope you'll be interested in joining me. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the other side. Okay, well, good morning, everyone, and thanks for joining. So we're going to get going right away. I was just mentioning that these last 2 weeks, maybe I didn't mention it, these last 2 weeks have felt like a bit of a transition. It's felt like that for me. I hope it's feeling a little bit like that for you. All of the larger energies have been initiated. We have clarity on how we're supposed to use our tools and wisdom. We have clarity on what we're trying to simplify and how we're trying to get to basics and get to some kind of foundation in some part of our life. We've got some clarity on how we're supposed to be expanding and growing this year, and also just a touch of the restructuring that needs to happen on how we show up, but we're going to get a little more of that. There are a couple more details that are coming. And now that everything's initiated, we're getting into some of the day-to-day work that shows us the details of how this actually gets done this year. So that's a lot of what this summer is doing that. And as we encounter it, I will be talking us through it. But the Mercury retrograde has completed. And we're in the going forward phase where we're rethinking what we want to put our minds into. And we're starting to envision where is that leading us, especially in the fall. And this summer is that prep work. And so any comments or questions? We talked about this. I kind of set the stage last time about that. And we're continuing on that journey and extending it. Okay. Hey, once again, I forgot to change the date on that. All right, I'll fix that. Okay, so here we are, the 15th. Mars today crosses over Chiron. You can't quite see it, but here they are together, and leaves that Chiron portal at 16.5 degrees Aries. Tomorrow, the sun has completed its journey through where this Mars in Gemini portal is. In 3 days, Mercury, the whole portal completes at 5 degrees. So think about how since the end of April, what you've learned, this is the completion of that. And then kind of 2.5 days later, we get the summer solstice. Actually, I didn't write it on the slide, but that is at about 2:15 a.m. California time, where the definition of that is when the sun goes into the sign of Cancer. Longest day of the year. Enjoy it. And Mercury enters that Mars portal. So Mercury completed its portal from that Taurus into 5 degrees of Gemini and back and forth. And just 3 days later, boop, it moves into that Mars portal that's coming up in the fall. And then Neptune stations retrograde at 25.5 degrees Pisces. The next day, June 29th, Venus enters the Mars portal. So while Mercury is still in there, Mercury leaves the Mars portal on the 2nd of July. And the 6th is when we meet again. So that is 3 weeks of activity. So we're going to go back, and what I think is helpful to notice is a couple things. One, notice that gap between Mercury and the sun is starting to close. They're 23 degrees apart, and you'll see Mercury start to catch up. It's this wonderful cycle. You'll just, now that we're doing this, you'll start to see that happen. It'll catch up, speed up, pass it, and then come back. And this is like this learning that just goes around that general steady ticking of living our lives, right? We get ahead of ourselves in the thinking, and then we have to go and think again. And then it's just this nice, wonderful cycle, and we can anticipate it from watching this. So you can watch that gap close, and you'll also start to see Mercury tick through this little portal. The Mars portal is from 8 degrees Gemini to 25 degrees Gemini. So you'll see Mercury go through and then Venus go through. So here we go. Okay. There it is. Okay, so moving into the journaling questions. Mars leaves the Chiron portal today. And, we experienced the sun moving through it, Mercury, Venus, and now Mars, all these little stones that are pinging you to pay attention. So Chiron is some of this unexpected energy where you go in with an intention and it doesn't quite show up the way you expected. I wrote a couple questions that I showed you last time. For me, I want to tell you that this showed up for me as a positive way. My growth, I could see what I was supposed to do, because so much of what I learned by giving the Mercury retrograde workshops said, oh my gosh, that's what I'm supposed to be doing, but I have no idea how to do that. And during this time of this Mars passing through this, I was turned on to a workshop that gave me that answer. I signed up for it for one thing, and it turned out to be a totally different thing than what I expected. It was like, oh my God, wow. And that is how that showed up for me. And if you can take that perspective as a nice way that Chiron can show up in our lives, those do exist for you. And this is anyone showing up for me that I didn't expect, that showed up for me. And it really got my heart going and very excited. The Mercury retrograde completed, or will complete in a few days. And I've added a couple questions here. What have you learned? And most importantly, you've been using your mind and been processing something that feels like it's just a beginning. How can you see this leading to something exciting this fall that possibly takes the whole summer to get ready for? Like that whole portal, think about from the end of April till now, what you've learned. If you were at the workshop, this is the time to look at those contemplation questions that you wrote down for yourself. What new perspective do you have on those questions now? And where is that taking you? And, there's no space here. So note where this is in your chart. Go there, that page, and make a couple notes. The Neptune portal. So the Neptune portal has been about bringing the people around you who feel you or have something to share with you because they understand, and vice versa. You're being brought to people that you need to hear stuff from. What have you learned by being with them in this part of your life? And you'll be integrating that for about 5 months. But note that Neptune does not station until the end of the month. So if there is anything, you can't force these people in, but you can invite them and you can open that door. And so if there is anything more that you can do to keep that door open and call in more people, this is the time to do it for the next 2 weeks. Just like take that risk, open that door a little wider, invite them in. And again, here are the questions. Couple extras for you here. How have I made sure the door was open for my people to find me and for me to find my people? And then how am I going to use the next 5 months to spend time with this crowd to build my understanding of others? Okay. All right. And then this is the first time we're talking about the Mars retrograde portal. That hasn't started yet. It starts in the fall. It is, I think I've been saying 9 months to people, and I was just counting wrong. It's really 6.5 months, but it opens in early September and completes March 15th, which actually corresponds with the completion of the Jupiter portal, which is kind of cool. And it's here in my chart. You can look to see where it is in your chart. And the sun is just finishing its move through here, and Mercury will start to go through, then Venus, and then Mars will go in. But every time this passage through this area of the sky happens, it's like a little rock being thrown your way saying, hey, pay attention, pay attention, pay attention. And that's what we're going to be doing during this summer, is paying attention. So, during the first 2 weeks of June, how have I intentionally used my mind in a way that could bring excitement this fall? You've done that. Then you think about, how do I assemble all of that information that I kind of gathered in an intentional way and bring it together or add to it? And then when Venus goes through, what feedback am I getting that is affirming that I'm on the right track? Okay. So I'm going to repeat what I did last time and see if this is helpful. I would love feedback from you guys on whether this is work, just creating that story. So the next 3 weeks are giving you signs that you're on that right path for the fall, when you're going to use that Mars energy, that commitment from your heart to use your mind, Gemini, right? Notice things, communicate things, take in the details. And right now, especially, have you done everything you can to open the door to your crowd? And so here's how this ticks through. So today, from the 9th to the 15th, Mars has finished moving through here, through the Chiron portal. And, this is possibly was this harder than I expected? That you finished the growth, Mars moved through Jupiter and into Chiron and told you something about, oh, I need to do a little more. And is this harder, or is there something showing up that I didn't expect in some way that touches your heart? Then, kind of at the same time, from the end of May until tomorrow, the sun has been moving through here. So that surprise that your heart got as Mars moved through the Chiron portal kind of led you to something. It's like, how am I figuring this out? What am I doing with my mind to get details or do some research? So for 2 weeks or so, you've been using your mind in some methodical and intentional way. And Mercury completes its portal. So this is the clarity about what the last 2 months have done for you. If you came to the workshop and you look at the questions you wrote for yourself, can you see how your perspective on these questions were clarified? And then the second half of June is applying your mind to what you were doing during those first 2 weeks when the sun went through here. How does that work? How do I rearrange or add to what I was doing or the information that I got so that I can get excited about this in the fall? And then when Venus goes through, what affirmation am I getting about the ideas that I'm trying out or that I'm thinking about? Which ones do I like? And finally, this Neptune stationing retrograde at the end of the month, who is your audience for what you have to say? These people, here is the Mars retrograde. That crowd is somewhere behind you, so to speak, on your chart. Like, these are the people that are going to get your message. The people that it's like you are ahead in some way, noticing all these things and letting those people know what you know and sharing it with them. And so what have you done to open that door for them? Okay. Survival tips. So with Mercury catching up to the sun, that separation like went from 23 degrees today to 11 degrees in 3 weeks from today. So you are kind of learning by doing. And think of this summer as preparation for the fall. What can you see yourself being excited about? And what more can you do to find your tribe or let them in by the end of June? And of course, rest when you can. And I'm going to, oops. Ignore the man behind the screen, that slide. Any questions? Does that story help? As I put it together, can anyone see any of those pieces for themselves and get some clarity? We'll keep moving through this, and I'll be here to like keep bringing those pieces together. But that's my hope, is that you do see this as just a big story. Now you have a little clarity on how to actually express what all these pieces are. And then you start to see the bigger picture of how it all comes together. It's like writing your book and getting the whole chapter of this year, but then getting all the paragraphs that make the story integrate. So one last thing, what time is it? Oh, 8:48, perfect. My next offering, I talked about this workshop I was at. Part of it is just being bold and going for it. And so I learned a lot from that Mercury retrograde workshop, which many of you were at, and felt like that was my launching pad for doing something on a bigger scale with people who need help in transition. That's how so many people find me, is they need clarity so that they can take action in a way that feels true to themselves. And that's what I want to do. So it's people who are changing jobs, basically any meaningful transition. And frankly, we're always in transition. I think you guys are here and recognize that. So this is something I think that can go on and on forever, just to be in touch with where your path is taking you. And so sometime in July, and it'll probably last for into August, September, I'm going to want to do some sort of offering for a small group of people to basically jump off of what we did in the Mercury retrograde workshops. So a little bit of do on your own work. So once you've done that Mercury retrograde workshop, you have a basic understanding of how you'll fill out some of your questions. And then there'll be some group calls or meetings to kind of talk through and refine those statements into something that means something for you. And it'll be an opportunity to learn from each other and really see, like, for the bigger planets, like if you think about how you're applying your tools and wisdom, we're going to create those same questions for the whole year. Like for me, it's about using my voice, and for others, we'll find out what those questions are, but we'll do that for some of those bigger energies so that you have like an energetic backdrop for what am I doing this year and how are all these pieces coming together. So if this is of interest to you, shoot me an email later. I'll be putting it out there more formally quite soon. And, this is part of my seeing that Neptune is stationing retrograde and doing everything I can to open the door and see who wants to come in and join me. So I'm trying to take my own messages to heart and share that with you so you see how it works for someone in real life. And it's scary and it's hard, but I'm still doing it. And that's the way I make the most of all of this that I want to offer up to people. So, all right, I'm going to stop my share. It is 8:51. How are you guys liking the integration of the energies into a story or putting things together about how it fits? Does that make sense?
I like it a lot.
Excellent. Okay, great. Any questions?
I'm excited.
Good. That's how it's supposed to feel. Yay. All right. So our next meeting is in 3 weeks on July 6th. If you need anything before then, ping me. And when I send out the replay, I'll reiterate this new offering that I'm going to do. I don't have complete clarity on how I'm going to price it, but I want to make it a no-brainer for people. So that should give you some indication of that. And we'll just see what happens. But thank you for joining me on this journey.
Thank you, Panda.
All right. Have a wonderful day, you guys.
You too.
Love you all. I hope you feel prepared to move through these next 3 weeks and look for the clues that you're on the right track and getting excited for the fall. Over these next 2 weeks, if there's some opportunity for you to invite more people in who need to hear your message, I encourage you to go for it, because really, you have nothing to lose. And finally, I'll soon open the doors for a small group of people to join me this summer on my new offering. If you're in transition and you want clarity on how to move forward, I can help. We'll work together on how to take action in a way that feels true to who you are. If you'd like to learn more, send me an email at panda@yourfullexpression.com. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.